I think that this is something that's been long overdue. I don't know. Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with a new hairstyle, as you can see. I'm feeling really petite, really dainty, really elfin. Very much. You feel me? Like, you see this hang time? You see it moving? Right. That is besides the point. We have gathered here today to look at character tropes in TV, film, and media and rank them. Because it's been long overdue and there are a lot of tropes that we need to talk about, really get all of our frustrations, feelings about, and just to sort them on a chart for some reason. Now, in my last couple tier list videos, I did ask if y'all wanted to see some kind of TV trope tier list, and the resounding answer was yes. So here we are. As you can see, we have a lovely tier list here with an assortment of tropes. I will be honest, I added pictures of characters that I feel like represent these tropes to a certain extent, and others I kind of got a little lax with. We got the tropes themselves. But before we do that, if you are new to the channel and this is the first time you're seeing my face, or if you've seen me before and just do not subscribe for whatever reason, you should change that and hit that subscribe button to join the Rummates. That is our official, unofficial name here. We're closely nearing 200K, so get your before 200K badge here by subscribing. I'm trying really hard to be a YouTuber and this is like not working. Also, while you're in the mood, you can follow me on my socials here at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And really quick right now, leave a like on this video because it helps out so much with the algorithm and it shows me that y'all enjoyed these videos. So please leave a like. But all that aside, let's actually get into this tier list because we have some really great tropes to get into. So as you can see, we have our tier list and our tropes here. And as we normally do, let's get into each of these tiers because they're a little bit different this time. At the very bottom, we have tropes that deserve to be sent straight to the trope dungeon, never to be seen again. These are tropes that are either just like wildly problematic, just generally tired, and deserve to never be seen in the light of day again. Really cute and wholesome stuff, I know. A cut above that are the bottom of the barrel tropes, and these tropes don't deserve to be sent to the pit, but they also just are either lazy, I don't like seeing them, or they're just you know? Then a cut above that is tropes that I'm just like not mad at it. Like if I see it, it's like okay, but I'm not crazy over them, but I'm also don't hate them, you know? Then above that, we have the category of tropes that I genuinely enjoy, and I have a little smiley face there to express my joy. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. And then our final tier, the highest tier, are the tropes that are gonna hit every single time. Those are just literally top tier tropes. I love seeing them, and if they're not in a show, movie, or media, I'm going to be a little upset, you know? Now I also will say when we get into these tropes, some of these are like official named tropes, and some of them are just like my headcanon and like what I kind of made up names for, and they may actually fall into like some official tropes, but I use some tropes that I knew, some tropes that you guys sent in, and then some that I just see a whole bunch and I'm like, that should be a trope. I don't know what the name is, I'll make one up. So let's get started. So the first trope, the absent parent trope, and I feel like this is so very prevalent in superhero movies, superhero shows, teen dramas, just genuinely environments where like the parents are just not there, either because they're working, they just don't care, or they are no longer with us. And more specifically to the first two, I feel like this trope generally just informs so much in a series, you know, or more so in a character, because your results really may vary. Like you could either get kids of absent parents that turn out like the kids in Gossip Girl, where they're just super entitled, have a bunch of daddy mommy issues, use that to manipulate and just get one over on other people, or you just have someone with an estranged relationship with their parents, and that leads them to be just generally funny and cope through humor. Like I think Felix from Love Victor season 1, like that type of energy. And I feel like since the results vary so much, I personally am not mad at it. It is getting a little tired, like it's getting a little old seeing the same thing over and over again, but I'm not mad at it. If it's there, it's there. Next up, we have Leighton Murray here from The Sex Lives of College Girls to represent the big city girl trope, and more specifically when the big city girl goes to like a smaller town or just somewhere that's like not a big city, and you get to see her really interact with her environment. Usually characters like this tend to be a little bit more snarky, a little bit more around the edges at first, but have like that really soft interior once you get to know them. And personally, I really enjoy this trope. I like seeing it just because I like seeing the character development from like the city girl. So yeah, I genuinely like the big city girl trope, I can't lie. Next, this beautiful picture of Ivy from Good Luck Charlie roughing up this gentleman is the black best friend trope. But yeah, the black best friend trope. This is the trope where you have like a token black friend. They're just there to be funny. They're there to be black, to be diverse. They don't really have their own storylines or really serve any purpose outside of assisting their protagonist, usually white. And honestly, I hate it. I understand representation, but this is not how you do it. Give us a good storyline. Give us any storyline that does not revolve around the main character just sitting there and listening to the main character's issues without actually having a mutually beneficial relationship. So yeah, Ivy, I'm sorry, love you girl, but your trope is going straight to the dungeon. Deep. I think that this might be the sun and moon trope. I think that's the official name for it, but I'm calling it the black cat golden retriever trope, where you have one character that resembles like a black cat, is like really standoffish, super moody, just super resembling of like a black cat in energy, and in Wednesday's case, in appearance in this picture. And then to contrast with the black cat, we have the golden retriever, and the golden retriever in this picture is Enid. But the golden retriever generally has like good, positive, warm vibes. The complete opposite to like the black cat. Generally wholesome, uplifting, bubbly, and just seeing those two personalities interact is always something I enjoy seeing. So for that, I genuinely enjoy the black cat golden retriever vibes. Next, we have Adam from Sex Education here to represent the DL jock trope. And if you don't know what I mean by that, that is basically the trope where you have like a jock or like a super masculine character that's genuinely pretty like presenting as like homophobic or like super manly, super like and he's generally like a bully. And then he turns out to be DL. I know this happens in real life, and I know that they're just trying to represent that community and that storyline, but I'm tired of it. I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's heartwarming. I don't think it's ever giving what it's meant to give, because it's implying a lot. It's implying that homophobia originates within the gay community and comes solely from internalized homophobia, which just is not true. Like, you can be homophobic and just like not gay, you could just be a terrible person. So yeah, I'd say that this is a bottom of the barrel trope. I'd say it's a bottom of the barrel trope. I'm not a fan of like the DL jock. I know some people are, and for that I say maybe seek some help, babes. Next, we have enemies to lovers. And enemies to lovers is a very interesting one, because I feel like everyone knows friends to lovers is like a fan favorite for everybody, but enemies to lovers I feel like brings a different nuance if done right. Heavy on the if done right though. You have examples like in Atypical with Casey and Izzy, where they at first hated each other but then became lovers. They became true friends and lovers and all of that. I said before, I think it's better when it's done right, which requires it to be a slow burn. Like, you have to officially see them go like from arch enemies to cooling off from enemies to being like some gray area of friends to then transitioning into lovers. It can't just be like, I hate you. Oh wait, we get in one steamy scene together and we're lovers. Like, no, I don't like that. I feel like that's a little forced, but I feel like in times when it's genuinely done right, I genuinely enjoy it. Next up, we have femme fatale, the femme fatale trope with none other than Georgia Miller. I feel like Georgia Miller is a more recent example of a femme fatale. And if you're unfamiliar with the femme fatale trope, let's look it up together. According to the take, the femme fatale is bold, beautiful, and bad to the bone. Most associated with classic film noir from the 1940s and 50s, she earns her name French for fatal woman because she traditionally brings about the destruction of the man or men in her story. And you love to see it, purr. And I feel like that is very much Georgia, like especially if you've seen this most recent season of Ginny and Georgia. I just made a review on it. If you haven't seen it for some reason, you should go watch that. But yeah, she takes down men like it's nothing and she looks real cunt doing it. So I can't hate on my sister. I really can't. I really enjoy seeing this trope for like the badassery of it all. So for that, I can't lie, it's gonna hit every time I see it. It's gonna hit every single time. Like, next up, we have friends to lovers. It's what everyone wants to have in their real life. Everyone wants a friends to lovers. There are so many examples of friends to lovers. Like, I feel like that is basically the essential framework for most shows, like especially romances. Like, just think of any show where there's like a boy and a girl and they like are friends and then they become in love. I'm blanking on examples. I'm sorry, it is late. But it's so common. It's literally so common. I'm not a fan of friends to lovers. I'm sorry. I know that's a lot of y'all's faves, but I think it's overdone. I've seen a lot of friends to lovers and a lot of really badly done friends to lovers where it's just like, I mean, it's cute. I like the beat, but I'm kind of tired of it. Like, I need something spicier. I need something more than friends to lovers. Like, I'll take an enemies to lovers over a friends to lovers, if I'm being honest. I'm in between being not mad at it and putting it at the bottom of the barrel. I know. I can already feel the death glares at even considering putting friends to lovers at the bottom of the barrel, but I'm really tired of seeing it. Because it's done wrong so many times. That's the thing. If shows and movies consistently did it right, then I'd understand, but it's just genuinely like so. It's just icky. Cause, okay, let me explain myself. I feel like a lot of the times with like friends to lovers recently, it's not like a mutual interest sort of thing. It's not really saying like all these people were just meant to be together. They were supposed to be friends first and then they got together. It's more of just like one of them catches feelings and then pines at it constantly until the other person's like, you know what, maybe I do have feelings, let's try this out. Like, it's not like a mutual thing, and I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. I feel like that actually might be spanning out into like a different trope as well, but I'm really not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not mad at it, but I really don't like it. I'll say that. Don't fight me. Put the pitchforks down immediately. Next up, we have the funny fat girl trope. And this trope is just overall problematic. Like, I do not like this trope. Because again, it's saying if you're a woman and you don't look a certain way, the only way that you can provide value is by humor. If you're funny, if you can be like the comedic relief. Generally, these characters don't have a ton of development and like their whole thing is that they're funny. And usually if they do go deeper, it's because it's a deflection of so many other things. And I really just think it's really gross and nasty. So for that, I put the funny fat girl trope straight into the dungeon and in the deeper levels as well. Next trope we have is the girl/boy next door. And girl and boy next door vibes kind of icks me, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why. It gives me a little bit of an ick. Like, it's cute because I feel like it's like relatable to a lot of people, like growing up with someone all your life and like having like a little crush on them and like having that develop as you get older. Like, sure, it's cute, but at the same time, I don't know, something about it just does not sit with me. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't absolutely hate it. So maybe I'm not mad at it. Okay, I'll put it there. I feel like an example of that more recently was with Heartbreak High with Amory and Dusty. They were girl/boy next door. Technically, you can count Georgia and Joe because they were girl/boy next door. They grew up together, technically. And then also, same show, Ginny and Marcus, because they're literally next door. I don't know. The vibes are kind of rank for me, but I guess I don't hate it. Next up, we have the good girl falls for the bad boy trope, and I don't know why. The second I said this, I thought of an immediate pairing for this. But like when I was making this tier list, I couldn't think of one right off bat. But literally, Lexi and Fez. Yeah, I ate that shit up. I ate it right up. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, babes. Maybe even dessert and a snack to boot. I loved me some Lexi and Fez. I think I genuinely enjoy it when it's in that kind of case. I just think it's either Lexi or Fez, or it's like typical school girl, never really done anything in her life, matches with this edgy biker man who's in a biker gang and does things and pops off on the road and does drugs. I guess that is also maybe Lexi and Fez, but you know, no, when it's not them, it's a little. But when it was them, I was kind of feeling it. I'm not gonna lie. Next, kind of similarly-ish, we have the good girl gone bad trope, which is basically kind of an extension of this. It's like after you have like this clean-cut good girl have something bad happen to her, like maybe like the bad boy fucks her over and she completely changes who she is and becomes this more like edgy sort of character. These characters often are how like villains are portrayed as like being on the right track, then something bad happens and then they just become a bad character. I personally think that this trope is like lazy because usually when this trope happens, like this girl has a nice life, something bad happens, and then automatically she's bad, and it just removes the nuance of the character. Where like clearly she doesn't make any strides to try and like have any development of herself to really look into herself and change her situation or like learn from her situation. It's just generally like kind of one-dimensional in its representation. So like I'm not mad at it, but I feel like there could be more done to actually like develop these characters out, if that makes sense. And I'm realizing that these are kind of similar, but a little bit different. But then we have like the whole loss of innocence, hoe era trope. And I feel like this one isn't exclusive to characters that are girls. It kind of spans to all characters, where you have a character that is portrayed to be pure or to care a lot about their virginity, and like they're generally like a younger character, usually in like high school or college, and then something happens, they flip a switch, and then all of a sudden they're in their hoe era. I feel like by and large, this trope is terribly written most of the time because it usually is just like this bad thing happens, let me let me have some self-discovery and really embrace my sexuality. And then they end up being like, no, it's not for me, sorry. And I feel like that's fine, that's a normal experience to have, but just not the way that it's usually written, if that makes sense. Like the outcome of this trope is almost always like the inverse, being like, I was right all along. Maybe I should wait for the right one, or like, that was a phase, that was crazy of me. Like it usually doesn't give as much of a sex positive message in the end as it would initially portray itself to be. It's more of just showing that like promiscuity or just like not being in a relationship as being like a alternative option that is temporary, not something that you want to really be doing, and something that people generally regret afterwards, which isn't always the case for people. So for that, I think it's the bottom of the barrel trope. I think it's lazy. I am not a fan of it. Next we have, ooh, this could be a lot of things. Okay, I know what this one is. This one's love triangle. Going with Davey, Paxton, and Ben is love triangles. And if y'all seen any of my reviews, you know how I feel about love triangles. You know how I feel about love triangles. I hate them. I really hate them. Like most of the time they're such lazy storytelling and are usually just frustrating, and you end up with the character that no one really wanted them to end up with. Like the main character always somehow manages to choose like the worst option out of the two. And we've just seen this trope hundreds and hundreds of times before. Like usually when it comes to a love story, it ends up in a love triangle or even like a love square. So for that, honestly, it deserves to go straight to the dungeon. I never want to, like if I never had to see this trope again, I would be so happy. I am tired of love triangle, and I want to express that enough. I am tired of love triangles. Next, we have the manic pixie dream girl trope, which from what I read was originally like a male-focused kind of misogynistic way of writing, where you'd have like this, you know, manic pixie dream girl, like this girl that doesn't really have too much development on her own, isn't really doing any self-reflection, but is just generally like high energy, kind of quirky, usually has like some kind of mysterious or traumatic past, but doesn't really get too much into it, and was used as a plot device to get like the male character who's generally more broody, like more disillusioned to life, to see like the brighter or more fun side to life. But I feel like as of recently, it's sort of been reclaimed as more of like a positive, or at least more of like an aesthetic. And at least writing wise, like the manic pixie dream girl is getting more of that development and is serving less of a purpose for men and giving more focus and development on like the girl, and is just given more specific character development and just self-discovery to the girl, like the actual character, where she's able to find herself, actually express her traumas, get through her traumas. Like I feel like a modern example of this would sort of be like Maeve from Sex Education, where she like exhibits a lot of the similar qualities of being a manic pixie dream girl, but has that character development and has her own storylines where she's able to develop herself and actually come into her own, independent of the other men in the show. So with that, keeping the original trope of like the manic pixie dream girl, I put it at the bottom of the barrel. Next up, we have what I like to call the millennial activist trope. And this character doesn't necessarily need to be a millennial, but they're written in a way that it was clearly written by either someone in Gen X, a boomer, or a millennial, just portraying what they think like being an activist or being like woke is like for like younger people. And I have Aaron here from Grownish because I feel like he's an example of it. Like he's wearing every single button for every single cause, may not be the most informed on every cause that he supports, but will pretend to be, and is basically everything that like an older person thinks like a young activist is. Like it's so far from the truth that these portrayals actually tend to be cringy on purpose, I feel like. And I feel like this trope is really satirical of like social justice and just being down for any cause. I personally don't like his portrayal. Whenever I see it, I think Aaron from Grownish, I think both Sam and her boyfriend from Dear White People, like yeah, that sort of energy just does not seem authentic. And for that, it's a bottom of the barrel trope. It's a bottom of the barrel trope, I'm sorry. Next up, with Jeremiah from The Summer I Turned Pretty, the nice guy trope. And the nice guy trope, in my opinion, is kind of terrifying because the nice guy is generally like a nice guy. He's like the guy that tends to get like friend zoned. Is always there for his love interest, is always behind the scenes, but is never the one that gets picked. Like when Ice Spice said, "How can I lose if I'm already chose?" The nice guy does not relate to that because they are never chose, which means they are always losing. And once they are not chose, these characters tend to unlock a sadistic or a more malicious undertone to them, usually in the form of like jealousy and resentment to their crush or to whoever their crush chooses over them, just really showing that they're not as nice on the interior as they present to be on the exterior. And really these are like the pick-me boys, to be honest. I think by and large, I am not a fan of this trope just because I'm not a fan of this kind of person in real life. So I have to put that in the bottom of the barrel. I've seen only a few times where this was executed well, and it was in like a thriller where like they actually get a little crazy with it. But generally, I'm not a huge fan of this. Next, with Sex Education, the most recent season, we have what I like to call the POC to white love interest pipeline trope. And I made a video kind of talking about this, but this is a trope when a person of color in a show is given an assortment of options of people. They go out of all their options and choose the white partner, even if that partner isn't necessarily the best for them or their character or makes sense for their character. And they have a whole bunch of other options that are people of color, generally great characters that would actually fit well with their character and that would make sense for them to be attracted to. They still end up with the white man or the white girl or whatever. That is this trope. This could also be called the Mindy Kaling trope because a lot of her characters end up like that. No shade. This trope is annoying to me because it just does not make a whole ton of sense. And I like to see it exterminated, so I put it in the trope dungeon. And that's not to say that I don't like interracial relationships in shows. It's just that like when you make a character that makes so much more sense for someone and you give them an assortment of options and they still choose against that, choose against what their character would even choose just to end up with a white person, it just seems so disingenuous, one, to their character, and it just shows that like, and it just gives off weirdo vibe. I don't know how to describe it further. Like, it's just, ugh, you know? Like if they had a genuine connection and actually made sense, I'd understand it and I'm fine with that. Like, that's cool. But when it seems like they're just making the character end up with a white person just because they're white, it's just weird. Next, we have the small town boy and the small town girl trope, and these are very different. I like the small town boy trope is like when you have a small town boy going to a big city. I don't like this. I don't like the small town boy trope. I don't know. I think that the small town boy is more annoying than the small town girl. Like the small town girl is filled with wonder and will just explore, mind her business, maybe have a little love interest or whatever. But I feel like the small town boy just takes up space. Like I feel like the small town boy goes to a city, he's like, I'm gonna make something of myself, and is just getting in the way. I don't know. I'm not mad at the small town boy trope. I'm not a huge fan. Like, I think it's annoying a little bit. I don't hate it, don't love it, but I genuinely enjoy the small town girl trope, except when it comes to Emily in Paris. I just think of Kimberly from The Sex Lives of College Girls before the end of season 2. Like, just genuine good vibes, genuine wonder about the city, and like these characters are just genuinely funny, as opposed to Small Town Boy, which I feel like is the boy that she ended up with, or that she was with for most of season 2. That was Small Town Boy. Very different vibe. If you get me, you get me. Next up, overall, this is a wide set of characters, but stereotype characters that stereotype based on like race specifically. Like you can think of like any genuine stereotype that would be presented in media. These just genuinely deserve to be sent straight to the trope dungeon. Like, we are above stereotypes. We can move past that because often, if not most, or even all cases, they are not true and are not great to promote and proliferate throughout our media. So I would like to see those in the trope dungeon. And not too far from it, with Titus from Kimmy Schmidt, is the gay best friend trope. The gay best friend trope is tired. We have gotten to a point where we can advance past the gay best friend trope. And this, if you're confused about the gay best friend trope, this is really similar to like the black best friend trope, where like they have no identity outside of being gay and being besties usually with a straight woman who usually just uses them as like a talking point or a way to give her fashion advice, boy advice, or just to keep around her finger in friend group as a form of like social currency. I think it's really reductive, and we've had so much progress and growth in like queer characters in media, and I feel like we're just way beyond like just having a gay best friend. Like, give a good storyline, give a good character development, like give something besides them just being gay for the sake of being gay and for being the gay best friend. So yeah, dungeon away. Next, second to last, we have the trauma baby. And the trauma baby trope is what I like to describe as a character or a set of characters that are just defined by their trauma. Like, all of their plot lines just have to circle back to their trauma. It's always about their trauma. They never move forward from their trauma. They are just stuck in it, and anything and everything that they go through just brings them right back there. I think Doom Patrol. I've been watching a lot of Doom Patrol, and I feel like everyone on Doom Patrol is a trauma baby. Like, the first season of Doom Patrol really irritated me because there were just no growth or no development. It was just like they face an enemy, they're reminded of that trauma, and they're sent right back to that place. There's no growth, there's no moving forward at all. Like, I understand if there was like progress, like going forward for a little bit and then going back. It is just the same thing over and over and over again for an entire season, and I was sick of it. I'm still watching though. I'm on season 3 now, baby. But it was a rough watch for that first season and a half, I'm not gonna lie. I do like characters with a little bit of trauma to add a little bit of spice, and especially when the trauma is a mystery for most of it and you have to like put the pieces together, I really do enjoy that. But I feel like overall, in the case that I'm talking about, the trauma baby trope, it's bottom of the barrel. Yeah, sorry. And finally, with Jughead Jones, we have the weirdo trope. And if you've seen Riverdale, or really are just in touch with pop culture, you know why I have Jughead here as the weirdo trope, with his whole monologue being like, I'm a weird kid. I'm a weirdo. People don't like me. People don't want to like me. Like, this also kind of falls into like the pick me boy trope. Like, the weirdo is just kind of strange and like weird for no reason. When I think of this trope, at least in the way that I mean it, I think of that one meme where it's like a bunch of people partying and that one guy in the corner be like, no one knows that blah, 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 blah. You know the one that I'm talking about? Cool. Like, this character kind of feels like goes out of their way to make sure that they don't fit in any space. And it's not that people don't like them, it's that they are kind of fascinated with this whole aspect of being mysterious and being not popular or not being liked. So even when people reach out to them or want to be their friend, they make it really difficult, usually because of something mysterious or some little thing that happened in their past that deeply affected them to this day. Like that sort of vibe. I mean, like, cool, but it's just kind of annoying to watch. It is kind of annoying to watch. I don't hate it. So I guess I'm not mad at it. And here we are. Wow. Those are all the tropes that I got right now. And that is not how I thought the distribution would look. I am a more hateful person than I initially thought. Like, as you can see, there's only one trope that I feel like is gonna hit every time, and that's femme fatale done right. But we got a three-way tie between tropes that deserve to be in the dungeon, bottom of the barrel, and I'm not mad at. So there are more tropes that I'm lukewarm or not really a fan of than like tropes that I genuinely enjoy. It's good to know. Wow. I'm a little shocked. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little shocked. But yeah, I guess now I kind of want to hear from you guys. What are your favorite or least favorite character tropes? Are there any here that you'd put in a different spot? Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Let me know everything down in the comments below. I'll also leave a link to this tier list in the description below so you can have fun with it as well on your own time. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on my socials at Imurgency on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Leave a like on this video if you haven't already. And I'm super appreciative and super thankful for those of you that decide to give me a super thanks or to become a member of this channel. But other than that, y'all, I've been Imurgency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.